Guys, welcome back. Welcome to a new weekend video. As you can see, we've discussed this trend line channel in the past, right? And you can see overnight the futures have moved up in a three-wave pump. So again, as long as it stays below this trend line, let's say about 3650-ish, right? I still think that the market has one more downside move to, tag this trend line before it starts its reversal. It's kind of my base case, right? And I'm basing that on the fact that, again, you can see that this is the channel, right, that we bounced off of every time and we haven't tagged it. I mean, it doesn't mean that we have to tag it, right? But it feels like any push higher, right? Let's say it gets over the trend line, then what's more likely is that we probably test 370 again, right, before it comes back down. So in either case, right, it's not a bullish move till it ends up tagging the bottom of this channel, which is where I would, kind of get long. The same would kind of apply for a QQQ as well, right? This is the channel holding as support, and any bounce gets rejected and comes to tag the bottom of the channel before I think we push higher. So obviously this is the bull case, right? But even in a bear case, to be honest, I would have a B wave to test 300 in the Qs before we go down. And in the SPY, even in the bear case, right, I would have a move of, let's say, to test 400 before we go back down. I know a lot of people have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm definitely not going to be in the majority. I do not think this is a 3, 4, or 5, right? Or this is a 3, this is a 4, this is a 5, but to be seen. Let's see how it plays out. So anyway, I'm still looking for expanded flats, right? And then an end of year push. So let's see how that plays out. I was still, again, waving wicks is not really, I'll put it this way, waving wicks is not a high probability thing, right? But I just like to wave it anywhere to just gain some perspective on it, right? I don't consider my waves to be right or anything on Wix, but yeah, this is a channel holding as support. I feel like as long as this channel holds, Wix still has one more firm push, right? Though this is the resistance line, this is a support line, and I am looking for a fake breakout. I still feel like the trap hasn't been laid, but again, if Wix starts to break below 30E, then that can become market bullish again. So that's how I'm monitoring Wix. And even the dollar, right, I still have a feeling that we have one more push to the upside, but again, this is the channel that I do have, right? So if it doesn't get supported here, then I think dollar will come fall back at 107. Let's look at the yields, right? Even the yields, again, this is the channel that we've been watching, right? So I'm still thinking of one more push to the top of the channel before it starts falling back down. So it's kind of my broader line, which is why I think the indexes could have one more downside move again. I'll be watching this trend line holding its resistance. If it can start breaking over this, then I'll look for, a move back up to like 3750-ish before it comes back down. So yeah, those are the bull and bear cases on the market. With that being said, let's look at this week's watch list, right? So the first one I have is snow. So snow, again, the reason for that is you can kind of see we've been chopping, right? Then we had a breakout on Friday, completely failed. And now it's trying to find support here again and push. So again, this is a pretty bearish looking channel, right? Which is why I think this gets rejected and we come back down to fill this gap at 158. So that's kind of why I have snow on this week's watch list. That this is a bearish looking chart. And if I go to the daily chart, you can see that this pretty much we've been sideways between 175 and 166, right? It tried to break out, it completely gave it all up, right? So again, this morning's pump, I don't think that it's going to last, and I think it's going to come back down. But if it can start getting over 177, then I can consider a more bullish case. But for now, it's bearish. It needs to get back into the channel to push higher. So that's what I have for snow. The next one is Mara. It's very similar to snow, right? You can see we've just kind of been chopping in this channel on Mara, right? So again, same with Mara. I think this push is likely going to be faded out and it's going to come test like $9. So that's why I have Mara on this week's watch list as well, right? I still see one more downside move for Mara. Let's look at Amazon. So Amazon, again, you can see a channel, right? And yeah, so I do have calls on Amazon, right? I have calls over 118 just in case we're playing out a more bullish scenario. But again, in Amazon, I'm still looking for it to come. This is the level of demand. I still think that it's going to come into this demand area, right? Around 110, 108, and that would be a good spot to buy calls for the next leg higher on Amazon. And the next one I have on this week's watch list is GM, right? And GM does have a gap to fill at 31.61. So I think that when it comes to 31.61, there's some pretty decent call flow as well. And I think it could make a good stock to move back up. And last but not the least, I have Crown. And Crown is a very similar setup to Snow and More. As you can see, we're just kind of chopping, right? So I expect this chop to break and come retest a lower level of demand at 156. So majorly I have puts just to play the last downside move, right? And then it's kind of a buy the dip that I kind of have on this chart, right? Again, a good example of a bear flag, right? Kind of see what happened with Tesla, right? Can you see what happened? This was the bearish flag, chopped about sideways for 3 days before it broke down and then had a large downside move, right? So I think Tesla still has a little more room to the downside before it pushes higher. So it's kind of my broader expectation for all the bear setups is I would kind of think that it would, same as Tesla, break down, have a large downside move, and then reverse higher. So yeah, that's what I have for this week's watch list, right? In the broader sense, speaking of looking at some of the Fang stocks, if we go to Meta, you can see we're coming close, right? To tag the channel trend line at around 130, 128 before I think it's done. If you look at Google, we've actually come down in a channel support, and the next fib level is around 93, which could act for a reversal higher, right? If we look at Microsoft, similarly, it's coming down into support, and the trend line is at 229, so one more downside move. So you kind of get the broader theme that I'm going for, right? Most of these stocks are coming hard into trend lines, which makes me believe we could have another move. Again, it doesn't have to be this bullish move that I have, right? It could still have a push up to the top of this channel before it comes back down. So as you can see, the immediate term is a bullish move, right? Apple, on the other hand, right? So again, I'm looking for this demand to get tested at 133, right? So any bounce gets rejected in a bigger ABC picture. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of stocks are still telling me they have a little more room to the downside, right? Which is why I'm kind of leaning bearish. If you look at Netflix, for example, and go to the 30-minute chart, you can see we're making 1, 2, 3 ABC moves, right? So that's why I still think that Netflix, will come fill this gap around 226 before it, can go any higher. So yeah, still have a little more downside room, which is why I don't think the index has bottomed. So yeah, thank you so much. That's all I have for this week's watch list. I'll see you guys next week.